Hello, good evening. So, I'm Southern, so I'm all about my manners. It's pretty well instilled into me. So, long story short, is my daughter wanted to have sushi, which, if you're not aware of them, in St. Louis, they're off of Watson. They're not open on Wednesdays, but they're open any other day of the week. And she wanted it for supper, so as a family, we went there, and it was just like jam packed. So we had to think of an alternative place to go to. So then we ended up going and we got Mexican, and it was good. But just like any other sit down place, you got it, and it's a Friday night. So that's kind of like what got me a little bit late as far as my time on here tonight, because you guys know I value you and your time. And so, life happens. So anytime it does, I'll always leave you guys a little message so you know where in the world I'm at, since I do try my best to be on time out of respect. It's just drilled into me from growing up in the South and being in the military. So the good news is it's been so much fun so far learning about the major arcana together. And so it's like I keep building onto my skill set, learning about all the different symbols and the cards. And then I know that we're growing together, because no matter where you're at on your fool's journey, you're right there growing with your knowledge of tarot. And the cool thing is after we review this card tonight for Judgment, then we only have one more left, and that will be the World, which will be the end of the major arcana cards. And the exciting thing is now we get to delve into the minor arcana, which would be the 4 different suits. They go from ace, which is 1, all the way to 10. So we're going to delve into those. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. So I'm really excited to stay on this journey with you guys, learning about tarot, because I love it and I love to share my love of it with other people. So I'll go ahead and hold up our card for tonight. So this is our Judgment card. Now, if you haven't noticed already, a lot of the cards in tarot have Christian themes. And it was because way back when they were first invented, they were more so over in Europe. So like we're talking like Italy. And so these were generally made and used by, say, the wealthy people as playing cards. And so eventually they just kind of evolved, and then other people got involved with them as well. But way, way, way back in the day, people like with money, they would have these cards made in their own likeness, or those of their like friends and family, having them like painted up and so forth. So it was like this big deal. And so there's a lot, even though there's different faiths that are interwoven in these cards, like we've talked about. There's Christian, Kabbalah, Greek, Egyptian, you name it, pagan. I love how all these different aspects of spirit, which is source, no matter what you call it, what you believe in, as far as the name of your faith or religion, everybody's trying to figure out spirit. And it's a beautiful thing, like my mantra, as long as it doesn't hurt the person or other people, it's a beautiful thing, and diversity truly is a beautiful thing. And so it's good to embrace it. So with this card, the reason I'm briefly touching on the history of tarot and stuff is I'm going to try not to sound too preachy, because I don't like to sound that way. But this card has roots in Revelation in the Bible. So basically, if people aren't familiar with it, I'll give a brief synopsis. So during the end of days, okay, and some people believe that we're currently in the end of days. I have been hearing that we're in the end of days since I was growing up in Tennessee, going to a Baptist church. They've been talking about the end of days. So in the Bible, I won't go into every little thing, but basically there's signs that will predate the return of Jesus Christ. And they're saying that when this happens, it will essentially be the end of the world, and people will immediately be judged. And so as part of my research, I have this really big, pretty book, not book, but book by Rachel Pollack. and she's great. If you're new to tarot, you definitely need to get a book by her because she's great. But she was talking about the original card for this, for Judgment, was a bit more horrific than this one. It showed people, like a very small line of people going to heaven, okay? But then it showed a much bigger, wider line going to hell. So basically, people, in Revelation, they talk about people rising up from their graves, and they're being judged for, if they knew God or not. Okay. Now, the way that this has advanced is we'll go into all the various symbols like we normally do. But if you've noticed, they took away between people going to hell and heaven. That's not pictured here. We are seeing a child in the middle with a female and then a male. And then there's this angel that predominantly takes up the picture. And so from my research, this could be either the Archangel Michael or Archangel Gabriel. Now, Archangel Gabriel was the one who kicked Satan out of heaven and condemned him to hell. So he was he facilitated that. But I'm seeing both names pop up. So the angel, so we've got the Roman numerals for 20. So this is the 20th major arcana card. So the Fool technically doesn't, even though he's part of the major arcana, our seeker he is a 0. So think of him as outside the loop with the numbers. And then we start numerically from 1 to 21. So tomorrow, when we do our go live, that will sum up the major arcana. That is the World. So this is the card preceding the final card. And then these wings, instead of them being a white color, they're red. And like we've talked about the importance of color, red symbolizes power, passion, authority. So I think this is very symbolic that this angel, instead of having the characteristic white wings that angels are thought of to have, the artist instead chose to use the color red to reflect that. And to add to the angel's authority, we have the trumpet, which is rather loud, and it's almost it's like, yeah, it's symbolic of authority, but it's also a means to wake up the dead and to have them rise up from their graves. And then there's this flag. And I was wondering, what in the world does this flag mean? And initially, I didn't know if it was supposed to symbolize like a country or what. And so what I found different meanings. So, okay, so one individual, let's see, so this would be Rachel Pollack. When I was reading in her book, it was talking about, yes, it symbolizes the authority of the angel because it accompanies the trumpet. The white stands for peace. And then this cross that's in the middle actually stands for neutrality. I'm going to look at my notes here, and protection. However, I kept digging because I wanted more info about it. And it says that it's in the book of Corinthians. It's the 15th chapter in the Bible. It speaks of the flag of St. George. So I haven't opened my Bible to confirm that. So feel free, if you got a Bible, you can crack it open or Google it. But it's the 15th chapter of Corinthians. It speaks of that. And that would be the flag of St. George. Okay. So with blue, so even though like, I'm sure like this is like quite the presence to behold, the blue, we think of calm. It's also related to truth. And the color of the white in his garment stands for purity. And let's see here. And then as far as the people go, they definitely don't have any color in the picture. They are white, and that's on purpose because it wants to show them as dead people. So they don't have the coloring as, say, the angel has coloring in this picture. They do not. And I was reading, and it was talking about how on different cards where we've got the male and female in the card, this is the first card where they're flipped. And one viewpoint on that is it's like taking in the perspective of the other individual there. That was one interpretation of it. As far as there being three people in the picture, it also has roots in Kabbalah with the three pillars of the tree of life, which would be the pillars of severity, mercy, and balance. So it stands for that. And it's at this point in the card where it's not like our justice card where we were talking about the consequences of, say, the seeker's actions, on himself and others in the journey. At this point in time, it essentially people are made clean. When they rise from their graves, think about it, like a very deep slumber, they open their eyes to this massive angel coming from the heavens, and they're essentially being born again, which is again another Christian reference. So it's very relatable to like when people get baptized and they're born again through Jesus Christ. Well, this is being born again during Judgment Day. Because at this point in time, we're no longer at that point with this card of kind of like, how do I put it? Re-examining our actions and all this good stuff and thinking about how best to move forward and leaving behind what didn't really quite work and so forth. What this card represents in general, it's rebirths, new beginnings. When we do readings for other people, it's very symbolic of change has or will very soon happen. And it's kind of like with the querent, whoever you're conversing with, if they're aware of it or not, because they are born anew from this journey with all of its ups and downs that we've been on with our full. This is being clean, rebirth, again, a new being. So just think of our snake shedding its skin yet again. That's what this card means. And in the background, we see those mountains. So even though we're approaching the end of our journey, it doesn't mean that the rest of our lives are going to be just so awesome and we're going to have it made and we have it all figured out. Oh, no way. Like, we know it's not that easy and it's not a linear journey, so we can go backward or forward. But by this point in time, though, the full has really changed from where they started out with this journey. So I'm going to look at my notes. So another name or reference for this card would be the Last Judgment. So let's see here. I'm just going to look, see if I forgot anything. So I mentioned, so it's a shift, change, rebirth. It's liberation. So like the people in this card are happy to behold this presence. They're like arms, if you take in their body posture and their arms open wide. It's not like the old school card that Rachel Pollack had discussed in her book that I was reading, where it was talking about heaven and hell and the line of people going either way. This one, from what I could ascertain from my reading, it's canceling out the dualism, the good and evil, and, it's just, it is what it is at that point, if that makes sense. Let's see here. So again, this card is telling us to move on. A bit of the high priestess vibes with this, because it says to listen to the voice within that's saying that, hey, it's time to leave the baggage in the past and move forward, because we're almost at the end of this journey. It's leaving the past behind. And I know that can be challenging for many of us to do because, generally speaking, people are hard on themselves. Like I've always told people, well, I'm probably harder on myself than anybody else in my life ever will be. And it's like when you don't meet your own expectations and goals, it's like it's hard to get outside of your own head And I'd be willing to bet I'm not the only one with that issue. You know, and so that's why it's so important to meditate, journal, if you could, like not everybody has a support system, but have somebody that you trust that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of, because people do need people, you know. So the coffins, other than being the containers that these dead people are rising from, being reborn, is symbolic. It's meaning ending to the old self. So it's synonymous with that snake skin that I talk about. The trumpet, other than it being like an authoritative symbol, it's also significant for announcement, which I think I mentioned at the very beginning of this. And yeah, and they're naked. So these dead people have nothing on. And the reason they have nothing on in this art is to show they have nothing to hide. And that could also represent that our Creator knows our hearts and our minds. It doesn't matter. They don't even need to verbalize at this point. Like, they are known for who they are. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. To take all that in. And if you notice the other colors, we have that really pretty light sky blue. So that's very calming. There's some clouds, which to me, I mean, I know that it can mean uncertainty. When you have clouds in the picture, it's almost like it's obscuring your view. But to me, it also kind of shows that this guy's from heaven. So he's coming from up above. And the landscape is something else to behold as well. So I'm taking all this in, and even our landscape looks blue instead of green, to where I was really having to like look at the card to make sure that this is not water. But even in areas where we have a tree, that ground is blue. So again, that color, so it's so important to kind of reflect on what colors mean. It dictates what this means. It really set the tone for the whole environment. And then I've got our cards we can look at. So here is one. And so we do have a lot of our same symbols. Okay. So we do have the flag of St. George right here. We have the crow. And it's like, okay, so this crow is like among the living, but see, his size is out of proportion too. If you look, he's the same size as the mountains. So this would be like a crow spirit, you know? So when I think of a crow spirit or a being that takes the shape of a crow, I think of Odin, okay? And then it's all the spirits of the crows. So it's like these rocks marked where they were buried, and there's like these little, I don't know, it looks like little footprints there in the sand. But see, these spirits are rising again and returning to Creator. And I think that this is really good at reflecting the rebirth, that it's like it's a done deal. Like you know, you're not the person you started off as, and you've grown incredibly much, you know, a whole lot during the journey. It's just like, again, it's either, it's a change, it's a rebirth, someone's evolved. So when you're reading for yourself or other people, it's like worth delving into if they're even aware that they are toward the end of this major life change. And because tomorrow wraps up our major arcana, right? So they may not even be aware that, gosh, I've really grown a lot and made a lot of progression. Or they might be like, you know what? I think I am about done with dealing with whatever the issue might be or the relationship. And then it's like the infinity symbol that I'm always talking about. So we just basically restart our journey. And we evolve in a different way. It could be a different relationship with another person, our finances, career, how we take care of ourselves, all sorts of various things. So it doesn't mean we've got all of life figured out, you know, because you know life's not that easy. Now in the card, it shows this being on the beach and there's water with the mountains in the background. So when you think of water, you think of spirit, emotions. You also think of coming clean, you know. And the sky, there's some illumination. So there's yellow there, which means that we have that enlightenment, increased knowledge, illumination of our journey, of our path. There are tones, though, where it's almost like an orangey type tone. And when I think of orange, I think of like the flames of a fire, like passion and just beauty and light and all that good stuff. But again, there's that flag and those mountains, a little bit of blue at the base of the mountains. So there's some calm feelings with this too, despite all this water here. Like, wow, like it's really cool to evolve into this new being, this new person, and almost have a handle on this issue. But it still shows that there's a road ahead, you know? And then here's one where it shows this lady and her spirit. It's like, so she has clothing on and she's got color to her skin. So she's not like a zombie or like sheet white. She's got like some brown coloration to her skin. And it shows her spirit. So it's like the way that her arms are turned, her hands are open. So it's like she's letting the past go. She's embracing the body that she's in and where she is at on her journey. And in the background, we see predominantly blue with some like sparks. So that also to me means illumination. And then we do have some streaks of black there, but predominantly the blue, the joy and the peace that comes with this card gets rid of a lot of that black, which would be all of the self-doubts and failures in the past that our Fool, unfortunately, could have very much still been clinging to, because this has been one tough journey. But it just shows the Fool doesn't need to hang on to this anymore. And yet again, he needs different clothes, different shoes. What he was wearing no longer fits him, doesn't feel right, and he's evolved. And again, I always say it every go live in case somebody hasn't seen my other ones. When I say he, it could be a he or a she. We're just talking about the overall energy of the card, is, you know, so I just generally use he a lot. So yeah, so that's that one. And then this one, I like it a whole lot. Even though it's such a deviation from the Rider-Waite-Smith. So this shows an awakening. So take in the beauty of that card. So instead of it being called Judgment, it's called Awakening. So it's like waking up and just realizing that you're shedding the skin of who you used to be. And it's like your spirit is elevated. You're clean. And I think too, you know, it really not only reflects that the end of a journey is like approaching us, like we're just one card away, but it also shows somebody's strength in their faith in whatever form that takes, that they are supported and strengthened by their faith. And that's a beautiful thing because it shows angel wings, you know, and I love how it just shows her like shedding that body that again, it doesn't even fit her anymore, you know? So yeah, just a very beautiful card. It also shows her not wearing any other garments other than her wings sprouting out of her back. So even though this is a joyous time, it's also a very vulnerable time too. But it also, like in her Rider-Waite-Smith card, means that she's coming clean, pure, new start, no baggage. It's a good thing. There is some uncertainty with the artist used of the black and gray colorations. But then as we look up here, we've got that light. So we have the solace, enlightenment, our path is visible. This is a very transitory type thing. So that blackness will fade. So this is actually a good card to get, I think. So this sums up our Judgment card, which I'll go ahead and reflect the OG, the original. Like for me, I don't know. Whenever like I've personally drawn this card, like I pretty well knew that it had roots in the Bible just looking at the picture, and maybe it's because I was brought up, as a Baptist. So it's already in my mind from reading the Bible and attending Bible study and all that, the Revelation and all that stuff. But it kind of like before I really truly reflected on it initially, I got it really confused a lot though with the justice card, because with justice we're being judged for whether from a fatalistic viewpoint where karma comes back to bite us, or by the legal system, or by those who may hold us accountable for our actions, that we're going to have to answer for them, whether they be good and have it be good feedback or bad. With this judgment card though, it's what I do like about it is it's just coming clean. This is not the end. It's a rebirth and it's a blessing. So yeah, so that's what I determined from researching it. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or in our chat group, the Crow's Nest. I love having a crow as a symbol of my little business. Like, I could get so creative with what I name groups, or even how I set my table up with various things. Like Sharon even told me last night that I am like a little crow because I collect accessories. And I have all these various things on my table, things that are colorful, shiny, attract my attention. So I'm thinking the crow's more my spirit animal than probably what I ever knew, So yeah, that's pretty cool. So tomorrow we'll wrap up the major arcana. We'll go ahead and we'll shoot for 8 p.m. again. And we'll discuss the world. And that means, so Sunday, I don't teach on Sunday since I do our group go lives with our readings. But on Monday, that means that we're going to start the minor arcana, which are more of the day-to-day life happenings. The major, more about your major life happenings, right? The minor is about the day-to-day stuff that we go through. So we're going to start with that. And I think we'll start off with the cups. So we'll start with on like Monday, we'll start off with the ace. We'll work our way to 10. We'll go through each suit. And then I think what I'm going to do is the end of our teaching, which is sometime down the road, because it's going to take us some time to get through each suit with 10 cards apiece, right? So that's like 40 cards total we still got to get through for the minors. And then I will save the court cards for the very end, which would be the page, knight, queen, and king. So that's 4 cards for each suit. So that's 16 right there. And then I'm thinking after that, I don't know. I'm going to build on the complexity of all this. And I'm already kind of like brainstorming about maybe scheduling like for people who want to do it to practice giving readings to each other. Maybe we could do like a little meeting like this, like a Zoom, where our group members could be there, and it would be, of course, a safe zone to where they could ask questions, but they could do readings for each other, and we get that practice in. So I think that's where my mind's at. I just think that we need to grow a little bit more before we do the spreads with that, if that makes sense, since we're about to wrap up the major arcana. I'm sure we could probably do something. I could research a spread with just the major. So yeah, I'll see what I can come up with, and I'll make a poll in the group and I'll assess the interest, because I want this to be something that you guys get some benefit and growth from. And I've got a lot of good feedback. So it makes my heart happy that many people are benefiting and growing from this, because it's helped give me that structure and inner peace. And that's all I would want for anybody in this life, is to be able to have some inner peace and clarity. And tarot certainly provides that. And then if you ever need a reading for me, since I'm in the business of doing readings, let me know. Send me a message, go to my website, go ahead and book a reading with me, and we'll figure out the details together. Because I love doing readings. I feel like I light up from inside when I do them. So it's like my jam. So yeah, so again, I appreciate you guys and I hope you have a good night. Bye.